The phases of primary respiration are called inspiration and expiration phase. One can also find the terms flexion and extension phase in literature. However, these reduce the processes to pure axial movement, not showing the importance of the expansion and retraction components of this rhythm. There is an expansion during the inspiration phase with a natural disengagement, meaning that the structures gently separate. There is a retraction during the expiration phase where the tissues gently converge. This retraction is a movement toward the center, creating an increasing closeness of the tissues. It does not mean a retraction in the sense of an active compression, contraction, or a reactive retraction, which inhibits the body's physiology. Those are rather the characteristics of a dysfunction. The portrayed diagram gives further insight to the rhythmical processes of qualities and conditions which arise during the primary respiration. The transverse diameter of the skull should increase during the inspiration phases. The anterior-posterior diameter should decrease, and the calvaria should sink. During the expiration phase, the transverse diameter of the skull should decrease, the anterior-posterior diameter should increase, and the calvaria should rise. A global variation of tension is also possible, a global expansion and retraction of the skull. In addition to the inherent movement of the brain and the fluctuation of the cerebrospinal fluid, the movement particulars in the biomechanical model are mainly determined through structural surfaces, intraosseous elasticity, and dural membranous attachments. Magoon describes a movement transfer from the sphenobasilar synostosis onto the other bones, for example from the occipital bone via the jugular process onto the temporal bone. The occipital bone should affect the temporal bone, parietal bone, and the mandible. The sphenoid bone should affect the rest of the bones of the skull. Currently, this depiction seems to be rather unlikely. However, the SPS as a central osseous region in the skull could be of great importance as a fulcrum and a region of concentration of information. If more importance is attached to the intraosseous elasticity, then an expansion and retraction in the entire skull and each of its skull bones seems more likely. A movement that has less axial orientation.